Welcome to CMMS Radio, a podcast and general resource for all things CMMS, computerized maintenance management software, from selection to implementation to help you make better choices and have a successful CMMS journey. We'll bring in experts along the way to help us learn more about CMMS, facilities operations, and much more. If you need help with the CMMS project, send a message at CMMSradio.com using the What's on Your Mind link. Suggest a topic, share your CMMS story, or ask questions. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Today we have a very special guest. She recently launched a new venture that I noticed it and was really interested in talking about it. I find it to be extremely useful and in a lot of ways long overdue for the CMMS space overall. Now, her name is Amanda Ortiz, and the new venture is AdminOnTheGo. And she's been in the world of maintenance management and CMMS for quite a while, worked with some different products, and we're going to get into all of this today. So first off, Amanda Ortiz, welcome to CMMS Radio.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, and I know we've been working on this for at least a couple of weeks or so to get it going. And the thing I want to understand first and foremost is how this journey started for you. And you can go back as far as you want. It's up to you. And then just kind of bring us up to today and the formation of this idea. I'm guessing you've been sitting on for a long time and just said, it's time. So
yeah, no problem.
Give all of that.
All right. So it started with, I actually never knew anything about maintenance CMMS, right? I'm just living my life. I was a hairdresser. I worked with health insurance. I did all these different things. And I moved down to Florida from Connecticut. I saw the palm trees and left my whole family and just came down here and moved. And I was like, I want to get out of the house. I'm going to go online. I'm going to look up a travel trainer. So I went on LinkedIn. I looked up travel trainer. I ended up finding a CMMS company. And I went in there. I felt the culture everybody talked about. I had no idea what a CMMS was. But the people were cool. Everything was very down to earth. It was great energy. And I'm pretty much the type of person that's driven on energy. You know, it motivates me. So when I felt the energy, I was like, you know what? I like this job. I want it. I want to work with this job. I don't know what I'm going to learn. I don't know the software, but you know what? I'll learn it and I'll do it. So I learned the CMMS and I ended up having a trainer position, which was on the road for 3 of the years. And then the last 2 years I was a manager. And then on top of that, also traveling when the team couldn't travel. So I started going to maintenance facilities, warehouses, sand mines, wastewater plants, office buildings, every type of industry, hotels, you know, just anything. But I should probably start and say that when I was a kid, I went to a technical high school. So they had all the shops, they had all the, you know, machine tool, carpentry. And I really wanted to take carpentry, but I was afraid of heights. So I didn't do that. And they said I'd have to go on the roof. So I was like, I'm not doing that. But I was used to that environment, all the shops and all of that. So, people at the job were like, hey, Amanda, when you go to the job, you know, you can't wear a dress, right? And I'm like, I'm going to be fine. They think I'm so girly, but they didn't know I had that experience, you know, being around shops and warehouses and all of that. So I get there, hard hat, safety glasses, steel toe boots, you know, and I'm meeting all the guys. And it's kind of funny because I start meeting the maintenance crews and I'm like, coming from a corporate environment in health insurance, this was a totally different environment. You know, people say things and then they'll like accidentally say a bad word and they'll be like, oh, sorry, miss. I'm like, you're fine. Like, I was loving it. I'm like, I like the maintenance crew. I like the head engineer. I love, you know, this environment. It was fun for me. But also I got to see you know, all of the experiences that people were, how they were using the CMMS, how they ran their facility. And I started to become more passionate about this than anything else that I did in life. You know, just seeing how this software was really helping them. And I did that. So I probably went to 100 different customers. And I can't even call them customers because they've all been friends. They still reach out to me. So then, do I tell the whole thing? like how I got here, right? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one thing that I started to notice is that when I was sitting with people training, we would have, let's say we're going to do training 9 to 3. In that 9 to 3, everybody was running in and out. It was very hard to get the home maintenance staff in there. It was very hard to sit with the head engineer or sit with the maintenance manager because they're putting out fires all day. Their radio is going off all day. People are yelling and swearing all day, right? It's a crazy environment. And we had to be very flexible to, me and the team that I was working with, whenever we would go to one of their facilities, we had to be very flexible to their schedule because they're in and out and they're so busy. So what was always missing is having that person to be in there, understanding the software and training them. And there was so many times when they would talk to my job directly, the company that I was working for, and not understand a word they were saying. So they're like, yeah, you have an API, you have an integration, you have this, you have that. And they're like, Amanda, what are they saying? Like, we want to fix these machines. We don't even want to touch a phone. We don't want to touch a computer. Like, this guy has been here 50 years. He's about to retire. He doesn't even want to talk to you right now. He wants to go do what he's doing. He wants to do his PMs. He wants to do these work orders, and he doesn't want, to touch his phone. He still has a flip phone, whatever it is. Or I'd get there and I'd be like, well, what were you using before? And they're like, him. He remembers all of it. He's been here 40 years. And I'm like, that's how you're keeping up with your PMs, the guy next to you, So I started to realize that the maintenance manager or head engineer, they should be worried about the maintenance part, and there should be someone there that is dedicated to just the admin. So as I saw that, I saw it for years, and then it was an amazing job, not only because I was building these relationships in the maintenance world. I was flying everywhere, right? So I was all over the place, and even though it was work, it was just amazing. Like, I met some great people. And also, like at resorts, they would fly me to resorts all over the world, and they're using the maintenance, but I saw resorts in a different way. So it wasn't like you go to a resort and you lay out and you relax and you enjoy the AC and you enjoy the pool and you enjoy all of these things. But people don't realize everybody running around, like checking the pool, to make sure the levels make sense, checking the AC. If you're in Aruba and you're at a resort and something breaks down and they don't have the part, it may take 8 weeks to get that part. So they're putting a small Band-Aid on it so people could relax and the AC works and all of these things are going, but nobody ever pays attention behind the scenes. So while I had this job, it was like opening my eyes to something different. I can't drive by. I went to a winery and I'm like, how do they keep up with those machines? Like, do they have, like, it's my new, I was watching Undercover Boss and they were talking about, when we write our work orders, I'm like, they're still writing their work. Like, I can't, my life has changed, So I went from there to another CMMS where I had a more behind the scenes role of creating courses. And I missed that interaction with the customers. I missed, being out there, and even in the wastewater plant where they brought me in the room that smelled, I gagged, it was disgusting. And they're making jokes like, we eat our lunch in here. What do you mean? And it's like the room that strains all the stuff out of the water. It's disgusting. Yeah. But these are experiences that have gotten me here. Like, I absolutely love thinking of this stuff. And when I was behind the scenes, people would be like, there's all these people who canceled their CMMS. They're pulling out. We have to lay off. And I'm watching, I'm working at larger organizations and I'm just like, they're pulling out because they don't know. They don't know what's covered in their subscription. If I call this person right now and I tell them, I'm going to train you today. I'm going to show you what you have in there. I'm going to show you how to pull up a work order. I'm going to show you how to document. I'm going to show you what you can get from this CMMS. I know that they would keep the CMMS. And sometimes that's what people needed. Even if I was going there to train with the previous position, it was like, well, we got new management and they're saying we don't need this software. We should just use Excel. And I'm like, let me show you something. So I'd go in there, big mess in the CMMS. And I'm like, no wonder when you run a report, the same machine is listed 15 times. Like, what are you guys doing? So I would, pull out all the information, fix it, put it back in. And then when I gave them their little pretty graphs, because the higher you go up in the company, nobody really cares about all those details. They just want to see, show me 3 graphs and numbers. What are we making? What are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
So I would show them and they're like, we should keep this software. So, these are the things that I'd be like, I'm so fulfilled with it that when I was at this last position and I was more behind the scenes, even my boss, we went to a conference and I was going crazy over some of these. It's funny. I won't use like specific names, but there's a couple people I look up to who have written reliability books and stuff like that. And I'm going crazy. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question about that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take a guess here, but I think I'm not guessing. I think I'm right. Was one of those books written by Ramesh Gulati?
Oh, yeah. It's funny because he was actually walking by, right? And it's crazy because people didn't know. And I'm looking at these people like they're famous, right? To me, in my brain, right? I'm like, do you understand who that is? Right? And he's just walking by and I stop him like, oh my goodness, I'm so excited to meet you, and he's just like, wow, thanks, because everybody thinks they are normal people, obviously, right? But for me, these are people I look up to in this world, like these are people helping people every day. And so many people walk by them and like I've been at many conferences and some of the conferences they're escorted in, they talk and they're escorted out. Like that's what it is. But at the last one I went to, I was actually able to go right up to them and talk to them. And it's funny because there's not many women in this industry. So especially the women, because I know for me, when I would walk in, let's say a railroad, right? And I have like 4 classes of 50 guys day after day. I walk in and it's like, they all look at me like, what does she know about this, right? That's the initial reaction all the time. But so I look up to like women who are also like in this industry or have written books.
Yeah.
And I remember like I was all excited. I was like, I'm going to go talk to her. I know exactly who that is. I've never gotten to talk to her. I've heard her speak and I've cried. Like, I love it. And my old boss was like, who is that? I'm like, what do you mean? That's like the Beyonce of maintenance. Like, what are you thinking, right? So these people are like, she's like, you shouldn't be behind the scenes doing training. You're too excited about this, and I've never seen it before. She's like, you're like a fangirl. And I'm like, well, I am, because like, you don't understand how this is helping people every day.
I love everything that you said, because it's hitting all these areas. So what's interesting, everyone, is first of all, we're already talking about Ramesh Gulati, and we're talking about maintenance and reliability best practices. And look, just shameless plug, whatever you want to call it. I'm getting ready to tackle that. I'm in that course right now, and I do an exclusive offer for people to get a discount. And I want to get in there and I want to learn this information to kind of shore up my knowledge and experiences, much like you did. And I love to hear that. And then when you switch it over and we talk about, so as far as like Reliability X, the course that they give and all that, I'm all about it. So I encourage everybody to check that out. I'll put something in this episode about it so people can grab that discount. Great course, laid out very well. And Ramesh is the man, and Reliability X is the go-to group. For me, I love those guys. And I talk to a lot of the consultants and the heavies throughout the industry on the podcast when I'm there in person. And you talked about something else. You talked about women in the industry, maintenance and reliability, asset management, facilities management. It's changing because everybody's talking about it and trying to promote that, because there's so many people out there making a difference. One of them that I know is Charlie Matthews. She's awesome. Then another one, phenomenal, Sonia Mathura. And if you want to check out a great book around STEM, Women in STEM and there's a new edition that just came out, or a new book on that. I'll put something up about that.
She's supported me so much from the day I started posting.
And it's real support. She's not.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. She's, as a matter of fact, as we speak, she's at a conference in the UK.
Yeah. Yeah. I
It's being
saw
done
that.
by Mobius Institute. So
Love it.
this is really good because when we talk about CMMS, I like to be focused on the maintenance management in the middle, the people and the process. And that's what seems to matter most. But what you're doing and what you're talking about when it comes to being an admin on the go and being able to bring your experiences and skills and insights while still maintaining that curiosity will make an impact, because so many organizations get CMMS platforms and they don't have anybody to administer it. They don't have anybody to say, look, we need to be gathering this information because Joe or Jill, who's been here 30, 40 years, is going to retire. And we can't go, hey, where's Joe? Where's Jill? We're about to do
Right.
this. And we don't know how. We got to use it as one of my friends, Brian Bieschke, he talks about the value of having that historian when it comes to, your record keeping and everything. And this is a common theme that we all just want to keep talking about. So all of this that you're talking about led you to launching Admin
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
Go.
I was at the last position. They're talking about, oh, we're going to lay off. And, a lot of people pulled out. They don't have CMMS. I'm like, they don't know how to use, excuse me, they're not using it. Really, the way people look at it, they're pulling out, they can't afford it, whatever it is. And I'm like, no, that's not why. Like, you're talking about big companies. I'm hearing these names. I'm like, are you kidding me? You don't think they could afford a CMMS? They definitely can. It's just that their maintenance staff, either it's like when I used to walk in and nobody wanted to see me there because they're like, oh, is this to watch us? It's like, no, they need to understand what a CMMS actually is. Like, all of the money, all the time, everything that you're, saving in the end. So I'm sitting there and I'm just watching. I'm in this corporate world and I'm just watching. I'm like, these people are pulling out and I can call 150 of these customers right now and we are going to keep them. We're at least, I'm not going to give myself that much credit, but a lot of them, and I'm watching people be laid off. So what was happening is not only was I seeing the struggle with the maintenance staffs that I still keep in touch with. I have some of the hotels that I worked at. They call me all the time. Like, hey, can you go in the system they have and tell me? And I'm like, if you want, like, I'll check for you, So eventually I was just like, you know what? Not only am I going to be helping the people who don't understand the implementation process, don't have the time. Also, I started working at a startup, helping one of my friends. And I was watching, this is a different type of startup, but I was watching how they didn't know how to train. The people learning, I'm like, oh no, I felt so bad because they're struggling and anyone's training. So you just pick a person and go, hey, train them. You've been doing it a month. And it's like, no. So it drives me crazy because one of the things that I absolutely love in life is watching people be successful. That is like amazing for me. I could train someone and they would pass me and I'd be happy because I love that feeling. So, just seeing layoffs in one end because people are pulling out of the CMS or watching, the pain points of our maintenance community, not getting what they need. I was like, you know what? I would love to go in, sit through first of all, I would love to shop for the CMMS. So first I would go in and I would say, what do you need? Let's look around your facility. What do you want to keep up with? And then I want to, look through all the CMMSs and say, you know what? This is the best one for you. Here's the pricing, right? Because nobody wants to do this part. And it's not that they don't want to do it, but they don't know what to ask, right? I remember one time, one of the things they called it was like, oh, do you do inspection rounds? And all my customers used to be like, no, we just need work orders. We just need work orders. So then I'd get there and I'm like, hey, do you, mark this pass or fail, or what do you do here? Don't we have that? I'm like, well, it's not installed. Like, did they ask you that you needed it? And I guess the name for it, for that specific company, was inspection rounds. But if it's not explained to someone, they're going to be like, no, we just want to keep up with work orders, right? So I would be that person that would say, these are the softwares that do that for you. You need this many users. This is how much it is for these 3, or whichever ones we narrow it down to. And then I would sit on those calls. Half of the people I already know at a couple of the companies, right? So I'm already comfortable talking to them. And then when I would talk to them, and then I would train the staff. So I would learn their customizations and what they name everything and all of that. And then I would train their staff. and then bring sunshine, of course, because I always
Yeah.
try to do that while I'm training. And then because I'm telling you, when I walk in, they hate me. They're like, what are you here for? I don't even want to touch that phone. And I have selfies with like hundreds of customers. I always took it with my crew because at the end, they're all smiling. Like I worked at an airport, at the end, they're all using the software. So that's something that like I make sure to do. I try to make people happy while I'm there. And then, of course, I would give them training materials. So then I would develop that, which is what I've been doing for years in health insurance and maintenance. And then I was thinking probably when there's updates in the software, I update that material or, stuff like that, because this is what I enjoy and I'm doing it already because these people are still calling me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to make this a business. I'm going to they say when you make a business or when you create your business, you have to look for what's missing. You have to look for what's the problem. So I
Yeah.
want to take away that problem.
For me, it's really refreshing because you've got all the validation from what you've done and you actually know what you're doing. You know what to look for, and you're asking them and listening to what they're trying to do first.
The most
And then
important thing.
You're trying to connect to their why. We want to do our stuff. Okay, here's how this helps with that. It's not here to babysit you. It's here to empower you. So what strategies have you used to increase user adoption for companies that have a CMMS already, but they're not using it well, and it's because of that resistance? What strategies have you used that worked?
Let's see. So, you know what? It's just making them comfortable and listening to them. What are they comfortable with, right? So the thing is, I mean, when you are trying to get someone to do something that they don't want to do, like at work especially, you just have to put yourself in their shoes, right? Because again, I knew nothing about this when I started. So my number one strategy, I guess we'll call it, is just letting people know, like, especially with adults, they don't want you to know more than them too. That's another thing. So when you get there, or when you do deal with a maintenance staff, or sometimes people are just embarrassed that they don't know about software and devices and all of that. So it's really just understanding what's their frustration and then working through that frustration. I swear I'm not even lying to you. When I walk in, people are just like mad, and I'm just like, what is going on? Like, we're just gonna slow it down. We're gonna teach you. It's about just being patient with people. And these are like, these are my personal strategies. Showing them that I've been in their shoes also. And a lot of people don't have patience. That's another thing with even the implementation part of it. I worked for these companies and saw the implementation group, right? I saw that team. And what that team is doing, you might have a 6-week implementation and you talk to them for an hour a week, and they have, I don't know, 60 hours of calls in a 40-hour week. Like, they're barely getting up to go to the bathroom. So they're trying to get you through that call. And they're like, is this what you want? Is this what you want? Is this what you want? If you're like, can we see that? They're kind of like, they're nice, but they're like, hey, I got another call when we hang up, right? So it's just, even with that, like, people never just, they're not really patient, whether it's when you're at work, because you can't be, you got to get through it, or when you also at work, the maintenance staff who, a lot of maintenance managers aren't really patient with someone when they're training them, because they're sitting them in a room and they're saying, hey, we have an hour. Let's show you for an hour. Now go fix this, go do this, whatever it is. And that's never going to have them want to use the system. They're not going to want to use it. They're not motivated. They don't understand what it's for. Let people know what it's actually for, because if it just looks like something to watch them where they're clocking in and out when they're on a machine or whatever it is, they're thinking you're going to get rid of them. But half of the time you're proving why they're valuable. You're trying to keep that staff, not get rid of them. So my strategy is always being patient, friendly, and listening to people and just giving them the time. And that's like human stuff. So I don't know if that's really a strategy. That's why I'm like, that's like the Amanda Ortiz way.
Well, so let's say that's the Amanda Ortiz way. And what's great about it is that we're back to that, you're listening to them, and this is how you develop influence, is by understanding where someone's at, what somebody wants, so that you can bring them to where they are trying to get. I mean, that's what it's all about, right? So whether you're selling the software, helping somebody find software, helping somebody deploy and implement software, or use it, adopt it, it's all about helping. And part of that is adding value, and it can't just be some BS value that comes from some
No.
random ROI calculator, because everything changes once you're in the environment. And the thing that I love about what you're talking about here is that, one, it helps that you're so into it and passionate about it, but
So
two,
much.
you use every opportunity along the way to learn, understand, and those are the things that actually make the impact. So if the juice has to be worth the squeeze, then it's going to have to matter to those frontline workers, the frontline workforce, the doers, as to, why am I doing that? I want to ask a question about that. Have you ever seen, because I was going to ask if you have any CMMS horror stories without naming names or companies. I want to ask before that, though, I want to ask, do you find it common that a CMMS is brought in, it's implemented and deployed, we start to get some nice user adoption, we're off to the races, it's like, yeah, this is working, everybody's benefiting, and then we come to find out leadership, mid-level management and above, supervisors, are still calling and stopping people and asking them questions that are all inside the CMMS. And now all of a sudden, however you like to say that, folks, now I'm a frontline worker. Why am I doing this? They're not even looking at it.
Of course. Of
You've seen
course.
it?
Yeah. Yeah. That's why it was always hard training upper management, middle management, so they might say, train our guys, guys and girls, right? And I train the staff, and then the manager can't make it in there. The VP can't make it in there. The director can't be in there. They're busy. Or maybe they're not. They just don't want to be in there, right? So what happens is they are asking questions that are in the system because they weren't able to sit in there, and then people give up on it, right? Because they're like, why am I doing all of this work? I've had people say, it takes me 5 minutes. This is before I got there because I made sure they were trained. But
Yeah.
it takes me 5 minutes to do the job and an hour to document it. And then you're asking me anyway. And they're like, if it takes you an hour to document it, I'll find it somebody else, So they always like go back and forth and have jokes with each other. But that happens all the time. Especially because a lot of times the admin of the system, or the person who's named the admin but has never been the admin, he has a right-hand guy or girl, and they're not an admin either. They barely know the system, but they expect that person to do everything, but their name is the admin in the system. So, they're asking them, like, log into my account, log into, do this, go find this, and that person's like clueless. So it's like, it's kind of crazy, but that's why I like being there to make sure, hey, you know what? I've trained at all different times. Like, you need training at midnight because you're going to be here third shift. Let's do it now. Like, let's set aside an hour. There's been times where I went to do a 5-day training and none of the technicians were available. And I'm sitting in the room for 5 days with the admin, and he learned everything, and I learned his whole life story, but it's okay. We become friends. So it's funny. But yeah, so that definitely does happen. My long way of giving you the answer.
So I want to ask, so I still want to see if you have any horror story that you can share with us.
Horror stories. I mean,
yeah, so like think deployment's gone bad or anything like that.
Well, yeah, I've had implementations that go bad, and that's just like a gap in communication. So, I get there. And I'm in this big city. I'm trying not to be too specific because I'm not going to use anybody for an example, but
Yeah.
I get to this big, beautiful city. It's the first time I get there. I realize I'm so used to wearing like the hard hat and the boots and all of that. And I see it says business casual. I'm like, I have these clothes at home. I left everything. So I go to like Target. I walk like 3 blocks. And then I end up in this office building, and these people have on like tailored suits, and I'm like, oh my god, I like, this is a real room with like 10 people or whoever at this long table. They're ready, right? And I'm like, I'm just feeling off because I'm like, I thought I was gonna wear these steel toe boots. But anyway, so I'm already starting a little uncomfortable, and they're like, all right, well, we have people flying in at 2 o'clock for training. And I'm like, okay, so we're waiting. It's probably like 10 o'clock. And I look, I'm like, let's just do a quick run through of your system, make sure everything's good. They're like, okay, we just implemented, everything's cool. We go through the system and it's nothing like what they wanted. Right. So I'm like, so they're like, what do you mean? I was supposed to get an email when this work order request came in. I'm supposed to, all these little customizations that they had. The work order, we don't call it a work order. We call it a ticket. That was supposed to be changed. This is, there's different things like that. And I'm like, well, I can do a couple things, but I'm going to have to call implementation. So I call them. I step out of the room because they're already scaring me in there. So I step out of the room, and they're like, and it's funny because now I'm in Florida and I'm used to being in Connecticut, which moves a little faster. Down here, it's a little slower. Everybody's in flip-flops and everybody's kind of hanging out. So I'm like, hey, I'm in the middle of this office. Like, we got to do this. Like, we got to make sure. And they're like, yeah, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. I'm like, no, people are coming in at 2 o'clock and I need this, that. They're like, yeah, we didn't finish that part. Yeah, I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, I'm like freaking out. I was fairly new. It was my first time in that city, first time with those people. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to go back in there and I'm going to understand exactly what they want. Whether, I just want to know where this went wrong. So I sat down with them and I think I wrote like a 15-page report of what they really wanted, because when I pulled it up on the screen and I said, okay, so how did you want this to work? They're like, well, and the way they were explaining it, the people at the company I was working for, they didn't understand what they were saying. And then the techie person on the other end they didn't understand each other. It's like you have to translate for people, but also you have to listen, right? So if they're explaining it in their own way, you can't just be like, well, I don't know what that is. We're just going to do it like this. It's like, no, you have to understand. So when they would say, what is that? What is that they're saying? I'm like, okay, look at the screen. When you click here and then you go here, this is exactly how that's going to work. And, they're like, they stopped everybody from flying in for 2 o'clock. They got me a flight for the next morning to go home. So they were already like over it, but I built their trust. So they were like, from now on, we're only working with you. I'm like, I don't know how to do all of the behind the scenes stuff, but that was a nightmare because I'm sitting in the middle of that room and I had all this pressure. But at the same time, I guess it ended up in a positive way because I was their translator and the person that understood them.
So this is really important, I think, because it's one of the most common things that happens in the world of CMMS in particular. Okay. And the reason I can say this is because I did it for so long, and it's probably one of the worst things that can happen is when that communication, that understanding of what the deliverable is really supposed to be can very easily go off the rails, because on one hand, as the provider of a CMMS, we want to educate and make sure expectations are set really, really well. But a lot of times that doesn't actually happen. And then there's the handoff. And then there's the handoff on client side. And then there's the turnover on the client side. And then there's the turnover at the CMMS provider. Oh, wow, we just lost our account manager. And our account manager was awesome because they actually used to be in implementation and deployment. So when they managed us and checked on us, they could actually help us. And it all starts to kind of fall apart because there aren't good succession plans and all these different things relative to how and why are we doing this. It starts to break down. And I've always had concerns about that and always wanted to figure out, well, how can we do a better job? So what I always said was, Well, I want my account executives to also act as account managers, and I want them to actually know exactly how our system works. But the most important thing that I think can cause this is not understanding your client. And
Oh
that's
my
what can
goodness.
break down so quickly. So I'm passionate about it. But then, in fairness, I want to tell everybody out there, the organizations providing the solution have some issues. And as clients, we're like, hey, I don't care. I'm paying for what I'm paying for. I want what I intended to get, all that kind of stuff. True, like
Right.
true, right?
Right.
So we got to have better strategies for that. And I think this comes all the way back to not just with the horror story, not just with you sharing your experiences, why I was excited to see when you put the announcement out about Admin on the Go, because I'm thinking, God, I get clients. I haven't been associated with the product that I was part of the build team and all this, and then the company bought it and all that. I haven't been part of that organization for, I don't know, like 3.5 years, something like that. I still get phone calls and I try to give them advice, but I can't go in and do anything. It's just the thing that we got to keep working on trying to solve. And I think your new offering, your new venture, is a really important thing, because now we have someone we can go to that either is going to know the solution, but also has that passion for understanding maintenance and reliability and everything in between, and wants to get to know the people so you can connect all the dots for that why. Not because you're trying, now it's not because you're trying to get them to buy some software, it's
Nope.
because you're trying to make them successful at
Yeah.
what they do. And they're going to get gaps. They're going to have a CMMS administrator that knows all this stuff, and that suddenly has to go because, the family's moving here, there, and she leaves the company. Now we don't have that admin. They could reach out to you and your organization as it grows, because you're
Right.
going to have people that want to, all right, assess, understand, drive impact, bring value. And I think it's great, because that's a critical gap that we see constantly. And I'm
Thank
excited about
you.
it. I'm
Thank
excited
you.
for you. I
It
think,
really means a lot for you to recognize that, because
oh,
I just thought of it because I love it, right? And then, I mean, I have so many people reaching out to me like, "Do you need me to work for you?" And I'm like, wait a minute, let's slow down. Like, let me get my first few, like, more clients, because
oh,
obviously I've been helping people already. But
we're gonna
what
be,
you say, yeah.
we're gonna be talking about that. Just, just
It means a lot what you say when it grows, because that's really what I want to happen. I already have people who want to be on the team, and I have people asking me like, what if somebody copies your idea? I'm like, okay, a couple things. The first thing is, good, let somebody else do it, because we're going to be helping more people, which
mhm.
that's why I started it. I didn't start it to be the only one in the world doing this, right? And then the second thing is, I don't worry about competition, because, like, I went to a Yankee game a couple weeks ago, and there's like a guy selling a hot dog across the street for $1.50, and then you go in the game and you're spending like 20 on a hot dog, right? And do you think Yankee Stadium cares that the guy across the street is selling? So for me, I'm not just giving, like, the admin on the go. I'm bringing energy and I'm bringing passion, and I hope that there are more people that I inspire to do this also.
Well, they're throughout. They're all over the world, and they're different level of consultants that can go like super broad, super focused, everywhere in between. And that's the thing about maintenance globally. A lot of the basic principles, the foundational elements of maintenance and what that really is, those are relatively static. And then how you apply them has the variability. Just like in CMMS platforms, when you're out there looking around for a solution, we could pretty safely say they all do about 80% the same thing, and there's a 20% differentiation. And that's because I'm trying to use that 80/20 rule. And what I mean by that is the nuance of how the solution actually works, why it was actually built, what it really solves as far as problems, because those are going to be similar yet different. And then we got to take it into our environments. So I go back to when you saw they were making candy. Well, they're going to do all the same basic things, but they're going to have some very unique elements and aspects of how they move, how they be, how they
Right.
exist, how they operate,
Right.
and on like that. So You are you. And when we look at competition out there, if somebody's going to do what you're going to do, that's a huge compliment.
Of
And
course. Yeah.
when I talk about us, talking more about that, of course, offline, and as you start to get busier and busier, then you're going to have to start to replicate this out. And I could envision at some point you having a team properly vetted that has the actual wares and approach that makes sense for your brand to drive the actual value for the clients. And that is all that matters. If you get too focused, I understand we got to pay attention to our competitors and all that. But if you start going, oh, well, they're doing this, this, and this, I have to do that. Right then and there, you just took away from yourself
Oh,
what you already
100%.
do.
I think
And it's
someone told a story about a horse and they put something here and here so they don't look at their competition or
yeah,
something. Like I've heard a story like that in some way, and I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Like, you don't have to look to your left or right. You just keep going. And I'm big with like the universe and energy, but I just believe that whatever's meant to come to you is going to come to you either way. So just like me
yeah.
ending up here.
It's and I'm so glad you did it, because I
Me
want people to know
too.
who you are and what you're doing. And I am telling you right now, what you're doing is 100% viable. And anybody that hears this, sees this, whatever, that doesn't necessarily agree with that, because I'm not trying to be right. I just think that's what it is. What's up? You got to have, if you can have an admin on the go that's going to supplement you and drive value for you to really administer your CMMS platform in the right way. And when they can't or don't understand what you're trying to do, they want to focus in and understand that first. Now you're actually going to be able to get results. You don't have to be so locked up when one of those personnel has to move into a different position or leave the company or whatever it might be. And for everyone out there, the other thing you talked about was people have CMMS platforms and they don't need to change. They think they do. New management parachutes in and, I don't like that one. I like this one. Let's do that. And then you've got a team over there going, wait a minute, we've been using this for 3 years and we use it well and we drive our KPIs and metrics for us. And now you want to change it? That doesn't make sense. That's foolish.
Another thing, there's some industries, like for example, the hotel industry, they use something else that's similar for their work orders, but not exactly a CMMS. And, they thought for so long they didn't need a CMMS. So a lot of times they're like, oh, we keep up with our work orders this way. It's like, yeah, but that's not doing all of this other stuff. You're not keeping up with, do you know how many parts you have on hand? Does it say it? Are you ahead of the game? So you're not spending thousands to overnight a part from another country or whatever you're doing. Are you keeping up with your purchase orders? No, because we use our accounting software where, sometimes there's a big struggle like, oh, which one are we going to use? You can integrate the two. There's so much that you can do where you're getting everything you need, but you're also using that other software. And there's stuff that can save you time where you don't have to document it in two places. So a lot of people don't know that they can communicate with each other, the two systems, and then you can also have a CMMS. So even, like I said, with the hotel industry, I watched how satisfied they were keeping up with other things besides the work orders to go fix something in a room or something like that. And people are very happy with it. So a lot of people don't know. They think that because they have one software for something that they can't look for a CMMS. So, that's another thing that I see all the time.
Oh, this every single bit of this is good stuff. I'm super excited about it. What I want to do now is switch to what I call the fun question segment on CMMS Radio. So
I thought that was the fun.
Well, now it's going to get really fun.
Okay. So, I'm nervous.
No, nothing to be nervous about. So no wrong answers whatsoever in this case. This is all about you. I'm going to ask you some questions. You just knock them down. Boom.
Okay.
Number 1, what is your favorite music?
Oh goodness. I'm going to say hip hop, and I'm also going to say jazz. I'm kind of obsessed with the saxophone, so I could listen to that and that will relax me. All day, every day. But I've always grown up as a hip hop person, which people never think. But in the car, it's parental advisory. You need parental advisory.
There you go. Next fun question is, what is your favorite sport or hobby? And on sport, it doesn't have to be one that you play. It could be one that you like to watch, support, observe, whatever.
My dad raised me a baseball fan. So I'm, where I'm located in Florida, unfortunately, the team that I don't really like comes here for spring training. So, whatever. But I drive a couple hours, or when my team plays them, I'm at spring training every year. When I said I went to a Yankee game, so obviously I'm probably going to scare away half the people that would have hired me. But they're like, we're not working with her anymore. But Yankees, I go to a Yankee game every time I go back to Connecticut to see my family. And then hobby, goodness, what is my hobby? I like painting. I like going to museums. I'm really big into art. I like writing, live music, stuff like that.
All right. Very cool. Now, here's the big one. There's only 3. So this is the final of the fun questions. What is your no wrong answers here. What is your philosophy, perspective, opinion, advice, anything like that on the concept of work-life balance?
Oh Lord, that's interesting. It's hard for me. I don't know how to do it. So I guess I believe in it and I believe in peace, but I'm a person who gets peace from working. So it's a little hard because my life is work. And it's been for a very long time. And, I've helped startup companies. And if anybody's ever been in that environment, there's no such thing as like balance, but I'm kind of addicted to it. So at the last company that I worked for, they were very, hey, log off at 5, just, hey, if you need lunch. I'm like, okay. And I tried it for a while and I don't know if I know how to do it. So I do believe in it. What I believe is if it brings you peace, do it. If it's working, if it's, even on my website, it says I'm available 24 hours a day. And people are like, even I go to therapy, right? I've done it for a couple years. I stand behind it. Absolutely love it. And she's like, no, don't put that on your website. You're not available 24 hours a day. And I'm like, but why not? Like, I love working. So whatever brings you peace, I believe you should do, whether it's work-life balance, work, life, whatever. So I believe in peace.
This is exactly why I say there are no wrong answers, because in some way, shape, or form, it resonates with someone. Maybe it helps them figure out what not to do.
Yeah. I should say, don't do that. Don't be like me. But
well, and look, again, this is why I say opinion, and it's good stuff. People get to know you, what you care about, and that's important. That's important to what I'm trying to do, because we want to be real, we want to be authentic, we want to try to solve problems, and we don't want to be fearful if we can, kind of knock that down. So these questions are just designed to kind of get to know you a little bit better and help people, kind of encourage them to connect with you. So speaking of that, so there you have it, folks. We've met Amanda Ortiz, and her new venture is AdminOnTheGo. You can find her on LinkedIn and connect with her there. But one thing you want to do is go and check out AdminOnTheGo, and you can find that
AdminOnTheGo.co. And please connect with me on LinkedIn, because I love new connections. I love helping each other out. I'm always posting if I see jobs, especially in the maintenance world. I'm always posting all of that. And along with some, if you like some positive posts, then that comes up there too. If it annoys you, I don't know, but I'm sure I know half the people, but I try to just keep it positive and share as much of the maintenance community posts that I can. So yeah, definitely connect.
Amanda, thank you for being on CMMS Radio.
Here, let me do it. You're welcome. And thank you for making it very comfortable. I appreciate it. I love that I was able to be myself, and you took away the nervousness right away. So thank you.
Did you find this episode helpful? Please send us some feedback, suggest a topic, or ask a question. Reach out to CMMS Radio if you need a co-pilot on your CMMS project. Visit CMMSradio.com and use the What's on Your Mind link. Thank you for tuning in to CMMS Radio, your resource for all things CMMS, from selection to implementation, to help you make better choices, learn from industry experts, and have a successful CMMS journey.